for me, that is still a kind of valid balance, the civil-military balance, because politics in any case is civil. It's not as though the politicians were in uniform, and I think that in any case was quite significant. There were, there was a wide spread, political parties from the right wing to the left wing who were able to articulate themselves, make their voices heard in that period. So again, I'm situating political organizations in the civil space. And I think that, we've had a situation where the military by and large have, and the security actors by and large have been, or were at least in that period, subordinate. They were subordinate to the political authorities. And I think it was because of a fair amount of good political handling that this was possible.
Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Okay. As you probably know, the question of timing and sequencing in implementation processes is a significant theme in research, and it's assumed to have a significant impact on the prospects of implementation processes. And informed by that, I have been wondering, about what impact the sequencing and the timing of inclusion, the timing of participation and opening routes for participation during a transition, during an implementation process may have upon, the influence that the included actors can take on the implementation process and its outcome. Do you have any observations regarding the timing of inclusion in the implementation of the interim constitution when, civil society and other actors could eventually participate? Were there certain patterns, or are there any interesting observations regarding the timing and the sequence of inclusion?
Around the timing, I think that, the interim constitution heralded a period of constitutionalism which had been absent, a period where the rule of law was supposed to prevail. And that in itself was a major victory. So I guess with hindsight, we can argue that we may not have had optimal civil society participation as it is understood today, but it had been civil society, in my view, which ultimately had delivered the interim constitution, meaning that rolling kind of the points to which South Africa had come had been through the efforts of civil society, who then, in a way, mutated or took on different forms and hats, became politicians. I suppose the issue for me is that what civil society is at any one time is relative, and the role that it can play at any one point is relative to the circumstances in which it finds itself. There were people, myself included, who at the time were members of, in that period, were members of multiple organizations, civil society organizations which are in the process of reviewing their identities, whether they should exist or not exist. People who are in the ANC, as it was, and undergoing a change. People were in maybe trade unions, people who were in the Communist Party, people who were going into parliament, or going into a security. So people like so many civil society actors sometimes had more than one identity. They weren't just a member of, say, the Black Sash, but they could be a member of the Black Sash and political organization and a trade union if they were a worker, and a Black Sash volunteer at night and they belonged to or supported a political party. So it was, there are multiple identities, and I suppose this is what makes the issues just so complex for the time, and the choices that people made sometimes perhaps conflicted.
Okay. I mean, it's absolutely again and again, I run into difficulties with the artificial analytical boundaries that one draws between political and civil society. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes also the concept of civil society that we're using in the analysis does not necessarily capture, what is happening in certain states and contexts, and how, and leaves out a lot of big aspects. One very short follow-up question that will help me tremendously to delineate my research topic. You mentioned the National Peace Accord, which was struck in 1991, if I assume. Mm-hmm. And that was technically a peace process that ran parallel to, the CODESA process and so forth, and was meant to enable the conditions. Mm-hmm. It's the institutions that were created by the National Peace Accord, such as the peace committees and so forth, continue to exist after 1994.
No, not that I recall. No, they did not. No.
Okay, great. Then I don't have to take those into account. That was my topic. Fantastic.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that at least 80% of what I have said is accurate, but I'm sure that your research and your reading will actually reveal whatever inconsistencies there are with properly kind of accredited stuff. As I had said, so much of this is so deeply recessed in my memory.
Yeah.
that, I must just apologize if there are some inaccuracies in what I've said.
This was a very, very useful interview, I must say. I mean, I greatly appreciate also the input because first of all, you have the area expertise, and secondly, you have the understanding of peace research. I just switched off the recording.